Congratulations on your election to the governing body and all the best for this term. It's a huge privilege but also a responsibility to serve your school community in this way. Your task is to govern. You're a governor. And governance is a very broad concept and has been the subject of many books. I remember a few years ago, I listened to an interview with Professor Dion Rousseau from the Ethics Institute where he was asked to define governance in a single sentence. His reply was, governance is all about preventing good people from doing stupid things. Well, this implies that great things can be done within the framework of good governance and management. The education sector has many good people, and yet stupid things still happen. As governing body members, we should create an environment in which good people can function optimally and lawfully in the school's best interest. We must generate policies and control mechanisms to enable responsible and accountable management in accordance with the principles of the King Report on Good Governance. We'll not be able to go into the finer details of the King Principles today, but I would like to invite you to download the Guide to the Application of the King Principles in Public Schools from the FEDSAS website and work through it systematically. This year's training program emphasizes 5 crucial areas of focus. These encompass the essential functions of a governing body, discipline and the significance of values and ethics in schools, effective human resource management, and financial management. There will also be a dedicated session for our emerging young leaders known as the RCL and their role on the SGB. You have the flexibility to choose between attending these sessions either online or in person within your province. Each of the topics will be covered in a 30-minute session, and your governing body has the autonomy to determine the most convenient time, location, and mode of participation. For a comprehensive overview of the provincial program, please refer to the FEDSAS website. Today is only the start of over 200 sessions nationwide spread over the next few months to equip you for your task. The next session is at your school and will be presented by the principal and the management team to introduce you to your own school's management process. Today's focus is on governance and its significance for every member of the governing body, especially within the school environment. While each school possesses its unique traits, it's crucial to recognize that the South African Schools Act and the underlying principles of good governance and management remain universally acceptable. In today's session, we'll be discussing a few key concepts relating to school governance and management. Join us around the coffee table before we delve a bit deeper. 2 experts joining us are both qualified attorneys boasting years of experience in education law and school administration, but each will introduce themselves.
Ek het myself al voorgestel, die mense wat vir ons luister, maar George, tell us about yourself.
I'm George Morasi, also known as Opa. I'm a lawyer by profession and currently employed as the National Development Officer for FEDSAS. I've been with FEDSAS since June of 2023, but before that I was the manager responsible for legal affairs and ethics at the South African Council for Educators for the past 16 years.
You've been in the system for a very long time.
And loving it.
And loving it. Jonay?
Ek is Johanay van der Merwe, ook 'n toegelate prokureur. Ek het in Bloemfontein groot geword, maar vinnig besef jy my hart lê eintlik by die onderwys en dis hoekom dit vir my so groot voorreg is om by FEDSAS te kan werk. Ek is tans die adjunkuitvoerende hoof en ook die hoof van ons regsdienste en ek geniet ook elke dag my werk om in die onderwyssektor regtig 'n verskil te kan maak.
Every 3 years we've got this buzz in education. A new wave of energy with new members of school governing bodies. So we know it's a very important structure, but if you're a new member of an SGB, even if you're a lawyer, would you know what to do, George?
I wish I could say I would know. I don't know what I would do. I'm just waiting to be, or I would love to be trained, because I've realized on many fronts that much as you may have a lot of knowledge on other aspects, most people don't know what's expected of them in terms of the South African Schools Act, especially if you are to serve as a member of the school governing body. So I think the FEDSAS training is something that's going to take me from zero to somewhere.
Yeah, even if you're an admitted lawyer or an advocate or a professional person, The context is quite different from what we experience in private practice or in any other sphere of life.
The experience is completely different, unless if your focus is on education law. So this is where you're going to learn education law for the first time.
Yeah.
You may have studied it, but you're going to learn the practice of it for the first time. So it's time to come on board and let's do this together.
Ja, nou ek het net nou gesê die onderwys is vol goeie mense, maar ons sien hoe word simpel foute gemaak. En baie van daai simpel foute eindig op jou lesenaar. Hoekom gebeur dit?
Inderdaad, Jaco, nee, kyk, ek dink daar gaan nie 'n week verby wat ek nie 'n glimlag op my gesig het nie, want dis regtig goeie mense, ouens met 'n hart en 'n passie vir hulle skool wat dom dinge doen. En ek dink baie keer doen ouens dit want hulle is onkundig. Hulle weet nie wat is goeie praktyksreëls nie, hulle weet nie hoe lyk good governance nie, en dan is dit wanneer ons sien daar foute gemaak word. Die ouens mag die mooiste en die beste intensies moontlik hê. Maar baie keer sien ons dat goeie mense regtig dom dinge kan aanvang.
Ja, alles al goeie bedoelings. Aan die einde van die dag dan lei die skool en die skoolgemeenskap daaronder. Maar kom ons kyk gou so 'n tree terug, want vandag se sessie word eintlik 'n paar moeilike konsepte verduidelik. En een van die eerste belangrike konsepte gaan oor hoe lyk 'n Suid-Afrikaanse skool. George, we're going to speak about state schools and public schools and former Model C schools, but we've abandoned that system 30 years ago.
Many moons ago, we did away with what's called state schools. We don't have church schools. We don't have Model C schools.
Farm
we
schools.
have or farm schools. We have public schools or independent schools. That's all what we have.
Johanna, hoe val ons weer terug op te sê model C skole en stadskole of dorpskole of plattelandse skole? Hoekom is dit 'n kwessie?
Wel, daar's baie individue wat hulle nou eintlik 'n bietjie skuldig maak in die verband. Baie mense praat nog verkeerdelik van staatskole in plaas van openbare skole. En daar's 'n reuse verskil tussen 'n staatskool en 'n openbare skool. Jy weet, wanneer ons kyk na 'n openbare skool, is dit die ouers, is die individue wat regtig die skool bedien en wat die gemeenskap bedien. So ek dink een van die redes is die spreekswyse, en ons lees baie keer in die media ook verkeerdelik waar daar gerapporteer of verwys na staatskole, terwyl ons 'n demokratiese verkose beheerliggaam het wat uit die meerderheid van ouers bestaan. En daar kan ek ook net vinnig verwys na Wetskrif 1, en dis daardie dokument waarop die skolewet gebou is, wat pertinent sê dat ons ouers is primêr verantwoordelik vir die onderrig van ons kinders. So wanneer ons dit binne daai konteks sien, moet ons besef ons werk met 'n openbare bestel en 'n openbare stelsel waar ouers die kernrol te speel het.
Ja.
And just can I just come in there, Jaco?
Yes, please.
If there's a perception that we need to correct, if we say state schools and we perpetuate the perception, we're taking away ownership of a school from the public, because this is a public school who needs to take ownership. It is for that reason that if I want to ban, I'll ban a state school. I don't care. But if it's a public school, this is my school.
So you're banning your own school now.
Yeah, so I need to take ownership. So let's move away from using the word state school. It's not a state school. This is my school, this is your school, this is our school. So it is our public school and not a state school. We need to take ownership of it, protect it however best we can.
It is such an important concept. Let's take some time and listen to this explanation.
Now, the media still regularly reports on so-called state schools. South Africa has no state schools. We have public schools or independent schools. Now, the difference between a state school and public schools is that so-called state schools belong to the state, and public schools to the school community. Now, the South African Schools Act created public schools governed by a democratically elected governing body. That is why you are here today. It is therefore wrong to refer to state schools because it implies that the state or the education department has sole powers in schools, that public servants or departmental officials will decide what happens at the school, who is appointed, and which programs will be offered. Now, White Paper 1 placed the ownership over schools in the hands of the community, and place the responsibility for the education of children in the hands of parents. Now, in terms of Section 15 of the South African Schools Act, all public schools are juristic persons. Therefore, this means that all public schools stand separately from state administration. The school does not belong to the state, nor is it governed by the state. Section 16 of the South African Schools Act provides that the governance of all public schools is vested in their governing bodies. Therefore, referring to schools in South Africa as state or governance schools is a gross denial of the special nature of public schools in the country. It is also a gross denial of the rights of all those involved in public schools.
Regspersoonlikheid binne die skoolkonteks is eintlik vreemd om te dink dat 'n skool is 'n regspersoon en dis die volgende konsep waarmee ons bietjie gaan werk. Nou, as lawyers, we understand the principle of a juristic person. But why is it so significant that public schools in our country are juristic persons? Why?
Wel, as ek dalk so by eerste kan wegspring, ons het nou net gepraat oor skole wat openbare skole is. Nou, openbare skole moet tog binne iets kan funksioneer. So net soos ons drie dalk nou hier natuurlike persone is wat besluite kan maak, wat sekere aankope kan maak, net so moet 'n skool ook tog sekerlik om behoorlik te kan funksioneer, daardie aksies kan uitvoer. En die voertuig wat ons gebruik om dit dan nou te kan doen, is deur middel van regspersoonlikheid. So, as ek dalk vinnig kan verduidelik, die skolewet ken daardie regspersoonlikheid toe aan die skool. En is dan nou ons beheerliggaam wat namens daardie regspersoon sal handel. So ek dink dis 'n belangrike konsep en begrip om te verstaan.
George, the school have to apply to be a juristic person.
You don't have to apply to be by virtue of you being born as a school. Yes, you exist, but you don't have eyes, limbs, ears. Therefore, the school governing body becomes there's ears, limbs, and the school governing body is the one that can enter into contracts on behalf of the school. It can sue, it can be sued. Let me explain this in detail. Let's explain the concept of juristic personality and look at a school as a juristic person. In terms of Section 15 of the South African Schools Act, all public schools are juristic persons. The concept of juristic personality has developed hand in hand with natural personality in order to afford certain bodies the same or similar legal powers and functions as natural persons. A natural person is someone like you and me. These powers include owning assets or incurring liabilities such as buying a new school bus, concluding a contract such as purchasing a photocopying machine, and suing, which means that a parent who doesn't pay school fees can be sued by the school, or being sued when you have missed a payment on the school bus. Companies, for example, are also juristic persons. Neither companies nor public schools have limbs or organs like natural persons do. Therefore, a company acts through another type of organ, namely its board. In the case of a public school, that organ is the school's governing body. This means that the governing body is the public school's brain, eyes, ears, arms, legs, hands, and feet, and it acts on behalf of the school. The school governing body itself is not a juristic person, but is only the organ through which the public school as a juristic person acts. All governing body actions can only occur on behalf of and for the benefit of or at the cost of the school. Since public schools are juristic persons, they also have a particular identity worth protecting. The school has the right to its own identity as long as it falls within the parameters of its duty to be a school. This includes the right to its own name, to choose its location, its colors, its songs, traditions and customs, its composition, which means the school can choose whether it is a unisex school, single medium school, double medium school, parallel medium school, primary, secondary, or a combined school, and so forth. Therefore, no one can simply take these rights away from the school. A practical example. No parent can make defamatory allegations on social media against a school without consequences. Or no politician can choose to change the name of the school at will.
Dis my baie interessant as ons koerantberigte lees oor skole en die goed wat skole partykeer doen, but also to see the kind of interferences we sometimes get from officials or politicians. And we know within the next few weeks or months we'll have a national election. And all those influences will have an impact on schooling. And I know we've got a principle, the principle of legality, which is a very technical term. Maar eenvoudig gestel ja en nee. En ons moet dit in besonderhede bietjie bespreek en ons gaan dit doen. Hoekom sukkel skole en die staat en politici so met waar's die grense van wat ons mag doen?
Wel kyk, ek dink baie belangrik, kom ek dalk net eers sê as ons praat oor die beginsel van legaliteit, dan beteken dit eenvoudige taal, ons kan nie doen wat die wet ons toelaat om te doen. Nou, ons het soveel amptenare, ons het soveel lede wat op beheerliggame doen en daar is 'n magdom wette wat vir ons voorskryf en vir ons moet lei omtrent wat dit is wat ons moet doen. En ek dink daar's 'n groot afwesigheid van daardie kundigheid omtrent wat word ek toegelaat om te doen. En dit is in daardie gevalle wanneer ons baie keer sien dat daar wette oortree word, wat partye buite hulle magte optree en ek dink dit is hoekom dit so belangrik is om daardie beginsel van legaliteit te verstaan, want sodra 'n ou dit begin verstaan, dan weet 'n ou hoe om op te tree, wat mag jy doen, wat is my regte, wat mag by my skool gedoen word, so dit is vir my die belangrik as ons daaroor gesels.
Nou kom ek probeer hierdie moeilike konsep maklik verduidelik.
The law still reigns supreme, and no official may simply act outside the legislative framework. This is called the principle of legality. It means that the school and officials may only do what they've been authorized to do by law, as their responsibilities are determined in terms of legislation. Public schools' heuristic personality is derived from legislation, and the public school's ability to act as a heuristic person is therefore limited to the provisions of the SA Schools Act. Section 15 and 16(1) of the Schools Act restrict the functions of a school and governing bodies to only those functions permitted by the Act itself. That is the principle of legality. Let me explain this. I'm a natural person, and within our country, I have the freedom to do anything unless the law prohibits it. But once I act as a functionary in an official capacity, I can only do what the law allows me to do. So as a member of a governing body, I can only do what the SA Schools Act and other education legislation allows me to do, or if I'm an official of the department, only what the law allows me to do as a state official. It sounds very complicated, so let me explain this very graphically. On the one hand, we have the school as a heuristic person, there we go, and on the other hand, the state in the form of the Department of Education. Thank you. Both are separate legal entities. The school is a separate legal entity, and therefore the school is not in the state and does not belong to the state. In fact, we ought to get a big, unbreachable chasm or gap between the two entities. Yes, there we go, thank you. Now, no one can simply walk from the one side to the other and hand out commands. But in practice, there has to be interaction between the two. So how do you come from one entity to the other? We need a bridge. There we go, thank you. And this bridge is called legislation. For example, the principal is appointed by the department, but uses the bridge to come and work at your school. In this case, the Employment of Educators Act. Governing bodies also need bridges to do their jobs. The contrary is also true. If there is no bridge created by law, the action cannot take place. Like when an official requests the school to submit bank statements every month. If the Schools Act does not provide for that, and it doesn't provide for that, the official cannot request it and the school may not hand it over. So the question about legality simply deals with whether or not there's a statutory provision for the action, or do you have a breach or not. The Constitutional Court explained the principle clearly in the FEDSAS Life case in 1998 and said it seems central to the conception of our constitutional order that the legislature and executive in every sphere are constrained by the principle that they may exercise no power and perform no function beyond that conferred upon them by law. This places a great responsibility on the school's governance and management structures to know the law and to apply it. It's therefore important to join the FEDSAS training, visit our website, consult and use our products.
Een van die lekkerste goed vir my in my werk is om met lede van beheerliggame te werk, want dis baie keer iemand wat alreeds 'n merk in die lewe gemaak het en nou op 'n vrywillige basis kom dien jy met jou gawes en talente, kom dien jy by 'n skool. En dis gewoonlik mense wat nie wil huil oor die probleme in die stelsel nie, hulle soek antwoorde. But George, the individual members of the SGB, how should we look at the individuals on the SGB? They've been elected now, but how do you harness the energy? Where do they report? What's the significance of the individual members of the SGB?
The question should be, Yaku, actually, who are the members of the SGB? To call it an SGB, who are we talking about here? Let me clarify it for you. Who constitute or make up an SGB? Section 23 of the South African Schools Act states that the governing body of ordinary public schools should consist of the following persons. You have the principal in his or her official capacity. You have learners in grade 8 or higher at the school, and these learners must be elected by the Representative Council of Learners, or what we call the RCL. You have parents of learners at the school, and the number of parents must constitute one more than the aggregate of the other voting members of the governing body. If at any stage the number of parents is less than the total number of voting members, the governing body must temporarily co-opt voting parent members. The governing body also comprises of educators at the school, and these educators may be employed by the state or the school governing body. It also comprises of non-educator staff members of the school, and these non-educator staff members may be employed by the state or by the school governing body. A governing body also comprises of co-opted members. A governing body may co-opt members to help the governing body perform its functions. Yaku, I'm thinking we might benefit from a visual representation of this.
Gladly, George. Each of these people referred to by George is elected from a particular grouping, and it's therefore easy to imagine that the individual should represent this group in the governing body and promote their interest. So each wears that constituency's hat. The principal for the department, the learner for the learners, the parents for the parents, the educators for the educators, and the non-educators for the non-educators. But look what happens if everyone just served that group's interest and wear their hat in each meeting. Fireworks, stress, conflict, and the school suffers as a result of this. So how do we stop something like this from happening? And the answer is in the Schools Act. Section 16.2 provides that the governing body stands in a position of trust towards the school and must at all times act in the interest of the school. It's therefore not about the interest of that group from which I'm elected, and definitely not about my own interest, ambitions or plans. It's about the school and by implication, the best interest of each child. Efficient school governance is about efficient leadership based on ethical values. School governing bodies governs the school by providing policies and strategies, which the principal and the school management team are then expected to implement in the interest of the school and the school community. Efficient school governance is also about striking the balance between the economic and social aims,
between individual and common objectives. And ultimately, however, the school governing body and school governance is about the interest of the school and the quality of teaching it provides to the learners. The primary purpose of school governing bodies is to guide public schools through efficient leadership, fair decision-making and strategic planning. The governing body introduces mechanisms to reduce potential risks. A governing body's purpose is to improve the quality of education at the school, improve the general functioning of the school, and ensure the school's financial stability and sustainability. Efficient governing bodies must act in an accountable, responsible, fair and transparent manner at all times. In this way, the aim of school governance will be achieved, namely to ensure that the public school continues to exist ethically and strategically accountable. I served with someone on a school's governing body who always explained it very simply to new governing body members. He said, "It's our job to leave the school in a better condition than how we got it."
Beheerliggame se lede het elkeen 'n baie belangrike rol om te speel en ja, ek is baie keer gefrustreerd met goeie mense wat baie ervaring het wat hulle kennis eintlik net by die hek los want goed word by 'n skool op 'n bepaalde manier gedoen. Maar daar's tog baie belangrike vergelyking tussen skool en besigheid en sakesektor, Johanay. Is dit nie juist belangrik om daai kundigheid wat ons in ons gemeenskap het juist na die skool toe te bring nie?
Absoluut, Jaco. Ek dink ons praat van 'n beheerliggaam of 'n governing body. So, jy weet, hulle is daar met 'n doel om te govern. En dis net soos enige ander struktuur wat 'n ou sou hê, 'n maatskappy of 'n vrywillige assosiasie, het ons verskillende strukture waarbinne ons funksioneer. Maar ek dink om dit te verduidelik, kom ons gaan kyk gou grafies daarna. We know that public schools is a public school and a juristic person. We understand that we must act within the framework of the law. We all know that the governing body governs the school and that we stand in a position of trust towards the school. So, how will this practically work in the school? Now, according to Section 16.3 of the South African Schools Act, the professional management of a public school is undertaken by the principal under the authority of the HOD of the province. Now, this graph helps me to understand this role. The school governing body is like the board of directors of a company. The principal is like the CEO. Now, the board will adopt policy, work on strategy, set targets, but then delegates functions to the CEO to execute. Now, the CEO, being the principal, will then get staff to assist him or her in committees like finances, hostels, sport, etc. And ultimately, the school community will benefit. Now, the CEO will report back to the board or principal back to the school governing body. The school governing body is not involved in the operational work at school level. That is the duty of the principal and staff, but they account and report back to the school governing body. School management is about the teaching and learning activities that take place at school. The principal and educators implement the policies developed by the governing body. School management focuses on the practical planning, organising and monitoring of all education activities aimed at providing quality education. School managers are the education leaders who motivate, inspire and guide educators and learners to enable education and teaching based on sound values. Now, for sound collaboration and mutual trust between school governance, that's the school governing body, and school management, the school principal and educators, the two components must have shared values, be clear on their respective responsibilities, be accountable, and act in a transparent way and be fair.
Baie dankie vir daai verduideliking, Johan. Dit maak baie sin. Maar hierdie CEO, hierdie uitvoerende hoof van hierdie maatskappy, sit bietjie in 'n baie unieke situasie. George, because the CEO of the school, the principal, he is reporting to different structures, or she.
That's the person I pity the most. Because the principal sits in the most, I always call it a hot seat. Because he has to report to everyone. He has to report to his employer being the department or a provincial department of education. He has to account to the SGB also in its capacity as governance. The SACE, or the South African Council for Educators, may still ask questions. So he's in a very difficult position, but that is his role, the most important. Not that others are less important, but he is the man in the, or the woman in the hottest seat. Yoni, would you like to clarify actually what a principal is in a school?
Principals fulfill a dual function. On the one hand, they account to the HOD. On the other, to the governing body. Now, as a governing body member, the principal is no different from any other governing body member. He or she has only one vote, which is neither a casting vote nor carries more weight than any other member's vote. As a professional manager, however, the principal represents the Department of Basic Education. In terms of the professional part, that's the teaching and learning activities of the school, the principal accounts to the HOD. In terms of the other aspects of school governance and management, the principal reports to the governing body. Now, the governing body cannot personally perform all the duties imposed on it by the South African Schools Act. And quite frankly, nor is it the role of the governing body to perform all of these duties by itself. Instead, the governing body exercises oversight and must therefore delegate. The most suitable person to whom the governing body should entrust the implementation of the school's mission, policies and strategies is the principal. Again, this does not mean that the principal needs to do everything personally, but it does mean that the principal is the locus, meaning the focus point of accountability and responsibility in the school environment. However, this does not absolve the governing body from accountability and responsibility. Although the governing body may delegate the actual performance of certain duties to the principal, the governing body remains accountable in terms of common law and the South African Schools Act. On the other hand, this does not imply that the governing body may interfere in the principal and staff's everyday executive duties either. Making this work requires trust, collaboration, mutual respect, regular and transparent reporting.
Dis lekker as jy so deur die land reis om te sien hoe verskillende skole werk. En selfs skole waar dit moeilik gegaan het of waar dit swaar gegaan het en daar kom nuwe leierskap in, het sy in die bestuurskant of in die beheerkant, dan kan mense klomp nuwe energie in 'n skool inblaas. So I think we need to unpack what are those things that will influence a school to become a good school or a great school. Maybe you're at the school now and you're struggling. What advice can we give to those members of a governing body? What should they do? What should they focus on, George?
Yaku, you've availed yourself to serve as a member of the school governing body. It doesn't help availing yourself, but you are never there. You are invited to meetings, you are not, or you do not attend the meetings, or you don't prepare for the meetings, but you attend. So you are in this plane, but you're not really serving any purpose in this plane. So you need to be there, not half-hearted, but wholeheartedly. Yone, would you like to add on?
Ja, George, jy praat nou en jy het spesifiek verwys na deelname op die beheerliggaam, maar ek dink dit is baie belangrik om te beklemtoon hoe moet daardie deelname binne die beheerliggaam lyk. En ek wil dit dalk vinnig verduidelik deur die positiewe kringloop wat binne die beheerliggaam moet wees. Daar moet vertroue wees, daar moet respek wees en daar moet openheid wees. As ons praat van vertroue, moet die beheerliggaam vertrou dat die skoolhoof sy werk sal doen op die standaard wat daar graag verwag word en ook andersom. Die skoolhoof saam met sy skoolbestuurspan moet daardie vertroue hê in die beheerliggaam dat die beheerliggaam werklik ook deur die skryf van beleide die beste belang van die skool op die hart het. As ons praat oor openheid dat ons alle feite eerlik op die tafel kan sit en lekker daaroor kan gesels, sodat ons nie geaffronteerd sal voel as iemand vir jou 'n vraag vra of 'n opvolgvraag vra op dit wat jy gesê het nie.
Ekskuus, laat my nog eens dink aan die ou wat geskryf het, if you don't allow mistakes, you promote cover-ups. And if you don't have a very open discussion and a very open governing body, then your staff members will be reluctant to report even on a bad news matter. So openness is really to create a space where people feel safe to share even the difficult information, isn't that, George?
Yaku, there's a whole lot of good governing bodies which went sour. The relationship went sour, and that was because of lack of openness. At some point, maybe a school principal decided not to disclose something which school governing bodies felt strongly about and that they wanted or would have loved to know about it. And that creates an element of mistrust between the principal and the governing body. It is highly important that the principal just leave it, open it up, let governance decide about it. At least they will trust. They can always trust you. They know, even if it, as a droge gemaak het met 'n natlap, jy het droog gemaak met 'n natlap, but you
Come clean.
They come clean, and you are open with them, and they know they can trust you. So my advice will be, please just be open with your governing body.
George, maar ek het nou ook al gesien, goeie beheerliggame stem nie die hele tyd oor alles saam nie. En dis nogal belangrik dat daar sterk opinies is en beheerliggaamlede ook van mekaar verskil. Want ek het ook iewers gelees as almal die hele tyd saamstem is dit klomp mense oorbodig, nê. So we cannot all think alike all the time. Then we're not going to make good decisions. Maar die manier waar ons van mekaar verskil is nogals belangrik, Johanna, en ek dink dis die derde een in daai deegsame sirkel, nê.
Dis die derde en ek dink amper een van die belangrikste een in daardie sirkel is daardie respek vir mekaar, want as ons nie respek vir mekaar gaan hê nie, gaan 'n ou nie kan saamwerk nie. En ek dink as ons net lekker kan gesels oor hoe vestig 'n ou daardie respek, dan is dit om tyd saam te spandeer. 'n Geselligheid saam te kan hê en saam te kan braai en weekliks saam 'n koffietjie te kan drink, want sodra ons daardie respek het en 'n ou weet daar word oor moeilike sake soms gepraat, maar dat dit uit 'n plek van respek uitkom, dan is dit wanneer ons regtig sien dat ons 'n great beheerliggaam het. Maar dalk moet ons hierdie een ook net grafies kyk.
Johanna, voor tussen daai skyfie toe gaan, ek lees dat respek is een van daardie universele waardes. Daar's nie 'n geloof aan hom gekoppel nie, daar's nie 'n adres gekoppel nie, daar's nie 'n randwaarde gekoppel nie. En dis een van daai universele waardes wat almal gaan onthou, doen aan ander, soos wat jy graag wil hê mense moet aan jou doen. Isn't that so true, George?
Yaku, to respect you, I need to respect you by virtue of your birthright. The fact that you were born is enough. I don't need anything beyond that. You have, you don't have, it's neither here nor there. I need to respect you by virtue of your birthright. That you are learned or not learned doesn't define you. I should respect you, as I said, by virtue of your birthright. Ek wil dit nie oorbetlim toon nie, maar ek dink ek sal moet dat oorbetlim toon. Nothing beats respect.
En snaaks, as ons daai ding verbreek in 'n beheerliggaam, dan verkrummel vertroue en openheid, want respek word amper hierdie gom as deel van hierdie deegsame sirkel, is dit nie?
Absoluut, Jaco. Sal ons gou grafies daarna gaan
Ons gaan kyk grafies.
Here's that virtuous cycle of trust, respect and openness that Johanna was referring to. The article, What Makes Great Boards Great, is also available on FEDSAS' website. You may feel somewhat overwhelmed at this stage, but please be assured that FEDSAS is there right next to you on this journey. FEDSAS is proud of its comprehensive service offering to governing bodies. Our aim is to ensure that every governing body is properly trained to perform its statutory duty and act in the school's best interest, unlock the potential of the school, educators and learners, and ultimately make a difference in South Africa. Let's join Rian van der Berg, FEDSAS' Deputy CEO and Manager of FEDSAS' Centres, as he provides insight into the support, services and products that FEDSAS offers to its members.
FEDSAS is a member organisation at its core. We serve our members. We don't sell them products or services. FEDSAS provides a wealth of knowledge, advice and training to members, but more importantly, give members a voice to join the collective voice of schools striving to provide quality education for our learners. FEDSAS is at the coalface with supporting members with unique problems at their schools, in the trenches with the stakeholders and the Department of Education to ensure and protect the sustainability of our schools, and the voice of reason in the community, media, and industry on matters that concern our schools and learners. We have a host of resources on our website and a wealth of knowledge and wisdom in our committed team of experts. We also look at specialized services and have established our Centre for Finance and Risk Management and Centre for Technology. The Finance Centre aims to serve schools with specialist knowledge and advice, as well as elevate the focus on good and proper financial management to ensure the sustainability of our schools. The Centre for Technology is on the cutting edge of innovation and serves schools with advice on the sensible adoption and integration of the tools of our time in the school environment for better learning and teaching outcomes. We showcase products and services from the industry and other innovation to help schools to be more efficient. We also look at fundraising opportunities for schools and currently have a project to get ongoing revenue on the top-up of data and airtime by cell phone users. Sim for Schools is an innovative project that can make a big difference in the funding of schools. FEDSAS is known for taking a stance, for making impact, for holding government accountable, and for pursuing the delivery of quality education for all learners of our beautiful country.
To build trust and respect, we need to get to know each other well. And if we get to know each other better, we will share information with more openness. As members of the governing body, we'll have to try to spend time together and find each other on a personal level. Despite an overwhelming feeling, remember that FEDSAS is on this journey with you. We have a capable team of more than 40 FEDSAS staff members who are going to assist you. The contact details of each province's manager will now appear on the screen. Quickly write it down and save the details on your phone. Visit our website to view the faces behind the name. The next session is at your school and deals with how management works at your school. That session will be hosted by the principal and his management team. Governance and management are like the two sides of the same coin. One cannot go without the other. Also, use the opportunity to get to know each other better as members of the governing body and as members of the management team. There are also a bunch of documents you need to study on the website. If you haven't already registered on the website, do it today. Each member of the governing body must self-register to create a username and password. Spend time on the website and use every source at your disposal. The website is available in English and Afrikaans. Use your phone's camera to scan the QR code displayed on the screen. Update your information as a governing body member and to qualify your school for a chance to win a strategic planning session in a lucky draw. Become part of FEDSAS' communication community on D6 Connect. Download the app if your school isn't already using it and search for FEDSAS. If your school is already using it, you can simply add FEDSAS. You will then be kept informed of the latest developments in education and all the training sessions that will follow. Speaking about training, the next part of our training will take place in your province. Book the session now and keep your diary open. It's important that each member of the governing body must attend the 5 sessions. Thank you for attending today's session. All the best for your task. Be learning and remember whatever you do, it must be in the best interest of the school. We do what we do because we love our kids, we love our schools, and we love our country.